That's good for a Kansas City Chiefs first down. Oh, God. What's up, everybody, and welcome to Aggathon's Rage Bar, Episode 8, the show where you ask me questions and I drink delicious beverages. What was that intro all about? Today I went to the Kansas City Chiefs Raiders game where they tried to set the Guinness Book of World Records record for loudest outdoor stadium. We got it at 137.5 decibels. Suck it, Seattle. But we got our title back, and wow, my voice hurts a lot. Fortunately, today on the show, we will have Trekkie from Method, so I won't have to do all the talking. It'll be fantastic. And I have a delicious beer with which to wash all this down. So this beer is one that is very dear to my heart. This is another one from River North, the brewery that I was pimping out last time. So this was the first IPA that I ever really liked. I think it's because the first one I tried where it was actually brewed properly, where the bitterness isn't a harsh bitterness. It actually tastes really good, which is surprising because this has like 236 IBUs. It's ridiculous. It's the Hoppenberg uncertainty principle. It used to be called hypothesis, but there was some winery out in California that was like, no, we want to call our wine hypothesis, and we got a lawyer first, so you guys have to change your name. This is a very good beer. I think it was a 92 on Beer Advocate or something like that. But this has quickly become one of my favorite beers ever, and I don't even like IPAs. Or at least I thought I didn't like IPAs. This beer is just, it's amazing. If you're in Denver, you've gotta go. Go to River North, get the Hoppenberg uncertainty principle. Today on the show, we are going to have Trekkie from Method. He is their paladin tank. I'd like to say main tank, but I don't really think there's such a thing as a main tank anymore. And now joining us on Aggathon's Rage Bar is Trekkie from Method. How are you doing, Trekkie?
I'm doing great over here in wonderful Europe, late Europe.
What time is it over there right now?
It's 4:07 at the moment.
In the morning?
Yeah.
So, needless to say, you're a night owl.
Pretty much, yeah. I usually stay up very, very late.
Nice. Thank you for joining us on the show. One of the things that I wanted to talk about, since I have you here, is what exactly is a hardcore raider? How do you define hardcore, and if you stopped being hardcore, where's the line between that and a casual?
It's probably a pretty hard question to answer. I think a lot of people who feel like they're investing a lot of time want to call themselves hardcore to be able to justify the amount of time they spend on it. Otherwise, I guess there are some other restrictions, like if you, I don't know, like if you cancel real life stuff for WoW, or like maybe have scheduled raids, that's probably like one type of hardcore. The difference, I guess, is casual, and that's when you just play for fun. You just play a few hours a day whenever you feel like it, and you don't really have that kind of structure. But you can also take it to, like, if you are doing good or not doing that much hardcore raid. Like, I don't know. But if you, like, some people say it's hardcore if you are 10 out of 14 or whatever, and I don't know. It's very different on how people play, I guess.
So, do you live in your parents' basement?
No, not anymore. I never did, but no, I do not. I have my own place, and for the time I played in Method, I've gone from having my own place to living with my parents, and then now back to my own place again. Although a different place.
So you do have a life outside of the World of Warcraft.
Well, that's another question. I don't. That's so much due to my streaming and all that stuff.
Gotcha.
But
Eh,
other people have, and like between progress, it's like you're free to do whatever the fuck you want. To be honest, like it doesn't matter. Like so many people are like raid logging just really rare, playing those few hours when you do raid,
well, and
and some people are
you raid
very
more
much.
than just the main method raid, right? You have other raids that you do, correct?
That I do, yeah, but that's just because I find I have time, I enjoy it, and my stream enjoy it. So that's why
Nice.
I choose to do multiple raids a week.
So when you guys are done with your main raid, those raiders that just log on for raid time and log off, how much time are they really spending a week? Is it like 2 hours?
Uh, Depends. Now it's still pretty fresh. It still takes a few hours. I think we spent 4.5 hours today on the raid, and we're just almost finishing. So we're gonna need about 1 or 2 hours tomorrow as well, or later this week to finish it. So about maybe 5 6 hours to clear it now, and that's obviously gonna go down to one evening a night. And the exact amount of hours is not very important, but it's one evening pretty much.
Gotcha, gotcha. So what other classes do you play? Your main is your paladin, right? Your protection
Yeah.
paladin. Do you have any other classes that you play?
I have all the tank classes, so I got a monk, warrior, druid, and a DK. I also play a warlock, because
Nice.
they're able to tank. Well, not really.
Hey, I remember tanking Kel'Thas as a warlock, so that
Yeah,
counts.
that was the reason I leveled my warlock because I could tank, and I actually leveled it by just tanking dungeons.
So were you pretty mad when they nerfed that glyph that allowed warlocks to tank in Kata?
No, not really. Didn't care about
Fair enough. Um, so one of the things I've been talking about this cast has been, especially with protection warriors, because I play protection warrior, and that is the avoidance argument. What is your opinion on warriors that are going stacking avoidance for more damage instead of stam and mastery for smoothing?
it. I would say it's an okay way to gear. Depending on the other classes. Avoidance is not really it's not a reliable stack to be stacking. It's
Hmm.
something you can stack if you want to like try to reduce damage overall, but that's not really a very useful metric to measure how easy how easy a tank is to heal or how good a tank is at surviving. As for warriors, it does give them a reliable crit rating as long as you're
Hmm.
actively tanking. So it's an okay way to gear. I do it on my own warrior, but it is a very spiky build. It takes a bit more like playthrough like to do it optimally, and I think it's just not really good enough when you step into the harder heroics when the damage just is just too high. It
Gotcha.
works, but just mastery will just be better, I'd say.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's one of the things that I've been debating with because in my raid, I'm just on normal. I'm only raiding like 6 hours a week right now, but you know, I was really undergeared when I first started tanking. I was like item level 500 or something, and so I was stacking mastery and stam because then I could actually tank everything, even though I was undergeared. But now that I've started to overgear all the normal content, I literally just switched to avoidance for shame. But I'm gonna try it out and see what happens. I did an LFR because there's no damage in LFR,
Yeah.
and in LFR I just stopped even using shield block and shield barrier. I just started spamming heroic strike.
Yeah, you do get quite a lot of rage, and this change in 5.4, even in a master build, master builds are actually quite nice for rage as well. Like
Hmm.
you just get so much rage, sometimes you don't even know what to do with it, to be honest.
And I feel
Um,
like a full mastery build synergizes really well with the T16 two piece.
yeah, definitely.
Because I mean, that's just your damage intake is just so ridiculously smooth when you're up there at 100% mastery.
It's also pretty perfect because shield block makes you able to always reduce damage. It's not like shield barrier is gonna absorb it, so you're gonna take no damage. But if the damage is high, it's gonna go away, and then you're gonna take spiky damage. While shield block makes sure that you will always take damage, but the damage you take will always be very controlled. And then you have the 2Ps, which heals you back. So the damage smoothing is insane with the 2Ps and a monster build.
Yeah, definitely. Once we get to Garrosh, I think I'm probably gonna end up switching back to a mastery build because I've heard he hits like a truck.
It does.
How hard does he hit in heroic?
About 950k per hit.
Holy crap!
That's with the armor and all that stuff. So
How many hit points do you have in your heroic gear right
just
now?
about a million. So pretty much kills it. So it's like you pretty much need to have something up for every auto hit, and that's where shield barrier is just not really strong enough. Like it works, it works very well, but what we pretty much want to be using would be shield block, and then you just fill shield with shield barrier when doing shield block downtimes or other cool.
So I guess talking about bosses that are hitting for almost a million apiece and having almost a million hit points, uh, would you say would you say we're about ready for that item level squish now? How do you feel about the item level squish that they talked about? Is it blatantly obvious now that numbers are too big?
Numbers are too big. Yeah, there's. I don't think there's any doubt on that. What I do think, though, I don't think. I think saying item level squish is probably not the right way to word it, because what we need, we don't need an item level squish. We need a number squish. So we
Okay.
just need to reduce the numbers, and if they do that by making the item levels like less of a difference, I don't know, they're still gonna have to do new tiers, give more item levels. So I think we're just gonna pretty much come into the same issue as
Gotcha.
we're in right now. I think like just you remove a couple of zeros and just call it done. Like they're not gonna do that, but I think they're gonna come up with something way more complicated. But I feel like just 1 million HP and then you hit it for like 1 point and then you like 8 decimals and like you don't care about that. So I don't
How much DPS are your high-end DPS doing right now?
know. I don't know about depends on the encounter of course very much. I
Yeah.
think about 350, 400k DPS I guess.
Um,
There are
sounds
a few things to horn.
yeah, that sounds pretty high. All right, so moving on. Another question I have, something else we've been talking about. So have you been raiding the whole time since vanilla?
No, I didn't join the game until after Burning Crusade came out.
Okay.
Both my brothers started playing as soon as Vanilla came out, and I just kept off. I don't know why. But once Burning Crusade came out, they were like, "Oh, let's play again," and I was like, "Oh, let's take in a few more." And I started them. So,
Gotcha. So, thus far, what is your favorite boss encounter that you've done?
um, I think one of my favorites is still like Mimiron. It's an awesome encounter overall, and I had great fun progressing it with the guild I was in back then. I
Yeah,
think that's a pretty big aspect. If you had fun doing the boss and progressing the boss, was a
absolutely.
hard enough fight, so you would spend enough time on it. If it's like you can't have a boss that takes 2, 3 tries as a favorite boss because you spend so little time on it. I
Exactly.
feel at least.
I would agree with that.
Siegecrafter Blackfuse in this tier is obviously like a big favorite as well because it very much reminds of Miron in many ways. Fire everywhere.
Nice.
Uh,
I haven't had a chance to look at it at heroic yet. So the heroic is pretty fun. There's fire everywhere.
yeah.
All of those don't stand in fire mechanics.
Agreed.
So you never got a chance to do like pre-nerf Muru or anything like that. Then, if you started after Burning Crusade.
That was end of Burning Crusade, and I could have if I like went into raiding scene a lot faster and like started advancing.
Hmm.
But I just took it like I started raiding with some IRL friends, and I took the time it was needed pretty much. I rerolled my paladin to a guild that just started up again when Sunwell came out, so I went from having tier 4 gear and jumping into Sunwell, trying to tank there with my paladin.
Ooh.
So we did not reach. We were late out, but we did not
Yeah.
reach Mura pre-nerf. No, so
Yeah.
didn't see that, but I don't know.
Yeah, neither did we. Sunwell was the only one that we got to that was post nerf. So we did like the 3.0 version of it, where it was kind of a
Yeah,
face roll.
yeah.
All right. Well, those are the main questions that I personally had. So let's jump into some viewer questions here. The first question is, what keeps Method motivated to do hardcore raiding? From Fuoko.
Ooh, I think just having the chance to get those world firsts keep a lot of people motivated to try again and just keep going. It's obviously a very bad, bad for your motivation if you don't end up very good or if you end up like third, fourth, then just feel like, well, it might not be worth it. But because of the fact that we have a really strong like core as well, leaders, and that's always been pushing quite high. And because of the fact that we just have had pretty good success throughout all of Cataclysm, where we can get second pretty much every tier, everyone just felt like, well, just push a bit more and we can get further and further. And we managed them now in Mr. Pandaria. And, well, you don't want to stop when you're ahead. So I guess that's what keeps people going.
That makes a lot of sense. So it's the fun of it, the thrill of getting the world first. Do you have so what on more of a micro level, like within your guild, what do leaders do on like a boss fight to motivate you if you guys are like hitting a wall? Like, what do you do?
I think it comes down to many people in the raid at the same time trying to help each other out. Because if we do really get stuck at a wall, everyone try to figure out. There's like some people say that it's impossible. Let's just give up, and everyone else is like, no, it's like we gotta fix this. We gotta sort it out. It's gonna be doable, and if it's not, well, most likely Blizzard is gonna nerf it somehow, and then we need to be as prepared as we can for when the nerfs to like if there's some ability that's just completely wrong, like. And we just need to be as ready as possible, and it's like they're not gonna make an impossible encounter, so we just have to be there and just try our hardest, I guess. I don't know.
Gotcha. So what's the atmosphere in the raid like? Like, is there a lot of raging going on, or is it a lot of like you ever get yelled at for screwing up, or is it more of like, ah, come on, Trekkie, you're better than that. You can do it next time.
I don't think so much of the later, but I think it's more like everyone realizes that everyone is trying to play their best. It's not like anyone is trying to play bad for any reason. If someone screws up, fine, just try to fix it, try to have a better solution for next time. And if it keeps happening, then yeah, of course, so then people are gonna start blaming each other, and people are gonna rage a bit and all that stuff. I think in general, I think Method are pretty well known for having a very friendly attitude towards each other in a way. Like, yeah, sure, people yell at each other, people rage for a very short period of time, and then everyone like goes back to normal. And I think like when you reach first or when you finish first, it's like everyone is friends again. But it's like you can't yell at each other and hate each other either. Like during progress either, like because you're not gonna want to cooperate. You need to have that kind of team spirit, and just play well together.
Excellent. I'd have to say that I agree with a lot of that. That's sort of the whenever I've led a guild, that's the philosophy that I've tried to maintain. Because I used to raid a whole lot more than just 6 hours a week. But uh, anyways, so the next question is, what do you think is the most poorly designed raid instance and why?
Um, I think a lot of people would just instinctively say Dragon Soul. Because I don't know, there were a lot of problems with that with that instance. I don't think it was that bad of an instance, to be honest, overall. But we didn't have a real progress race there, which ruined it for a lot of people, us included, because they're banned and all that stuff. And then Spine of Deathwing was just a very annoying encounter for most guilds. So I think that's pretty much what people ended up hating. Overall, I think I don't know. I'm not a big fan of a lot of bosses in the beginning of Mists of Pandaria either. I think a lot of them were very similar to their normal modes, so it weren't like exciting enough. It's also a hard tier to do right as we have an expansion as well,
Gotcha.
because you have the gearing and all that stuff is very weird.
So when you guys are doing a boss on heroic, this is sort of in the same tier of instance design. Um, if a boss is pretty much the exact same on normal as it is in heroic, it just hits a lot harder.
Yeah.
Is that annoying for you guys? Do you really prefer to have like additional mechanics and additional phases and stuff like that that you have to deal with on heroic, so it feels like a different fight?
Yeah, I really like having very like distinct faces. Either distinct faces are fine. I think that they're a bit annoying if you have it too much.
Hmm.
For end bosses or like special bosses, more than fine. I think that's perfect. Having extra abilities, however, I think is very important for heroic fights because going back to looking at Siege of Orgrimmar, there are a lot of fights there that are pretty much exactly the same in normal and heroic, and they're just higher numbers. And I think that's a design flaw in a lot of bosses in Siege of Orgrimmar. But you have a few which have very different fights as well. Um, well, I think I would really like to see more mechanics, more special mechanics that interfere with the other, like the normal mode abilities.
Hmm.
Um, because when it's just higher numbers in normal mode, then it just feel like, well, as soon as we overgear it, it's pretty much like doing normal mode.
So in a similar vein of worst overall instance, what do you think the best overall instance is? Is Ulduar up there for you? Especially since to me that seems like one of the
Yeah.
instances where hard modes was first introduced, and it was you do this fight completely differently than how
Yeah.
you do it in normal mode.
I definitely have to agree there. I think Goldar is, if it's not the best, it's probably one of the best. The best. It gets a bit complicated because we had some instances that, or some fights that didn't have a hard mode,
Yeah.
but they were trying their like they were testing the waters on what could work and what wouldn't work, and I think definitely they have definitely gained a lot on it, and the hard modes are very different from the normal modes, and I think that's a very good distinction. And I like it's gonna be interesting for the other for guilds are doing it like are doing normal modes for quite a few weeks because we're only doing them once, and then
Hmm.
we're doing heroics. And for the guilds to do most of the normal modes for quite a few weeks before they do that particular fight in heroic, I feel like that's gonna be pretty interesting for them, like to mix it up a bit, change it up a bit, and get a new fight, pretty much.
Do you think that Blizzard should try and do more of the Ulduar type hard modes and that like so you kill things in a different order or you like the protectors for Freya where you'd keep all of them up?
Yeah.
Do you like that version of hard modes or are you perfectly fine with just switching it to hard mode 25 and calling it good?
I'm perfectly fine with just switching to hard mode, to be honest. It I think it's fine with some elite encounters like protectors. They were a bit weird because absolutely no one cared about them when they came out because everyone was like, nope, going shot, don't care about elite. And you did it on a normal mode, yeah, of course. But as soon as like as for the race, as the race goes, no one tried the heroic version for like the first few weeks. We kill on normal mode like the easy way or on heroic the easy way just to get the shot as fast as possible. And then the next few weeks, like no one had killed it. It's like, oh, we can get a world first. It's like, no one cares.
Gotcha. All right, well, we'll move on to the next question, which is how do you think active mitigation has worked out, and where do you see it going? From ML. So this goes more to sort of our theory crafting roots, because I know you're big on main Tankadin, right? You post there a lot,
Yeah.
do you just are you just kind of there?
I sort of most read these days, but I do post. I'm there actively, so to say. But yeah,
Gotcha. So, how do you like active mitigation? And you said you play all the different tank
yeah.
classes. So, is active mitigation as good of a thing on all tank classes? I know I've typically loved it as a warrior, but it feels almost more like the Burning Crusade warrior, where you're just to an extent it's spamming shield block. And is that really active mitigation, or how do you feel it's gone?
I would say it's still active mitigation, to be honest, and I'd say active mitigation when they introducing active mitigation is a very great tool for them for tanks overall. Now some DKs have worse active mitigation, DKs, some tanks, especially DKs, have worse active mitigation than others, and or rather less reliable. And I think that comes down very much to class balance, how their active mitigation turns out. But overall, it's like I find it very much interesting to be standing there and doing something instead of just sitting there and like sort of, well, just standing in front of the boss pretty much.
I gotcha. I would tend to agree a lot with that. I always thought that I never really liked threat as a mechanic,
Uh,
like trying to raise threat. I always thought, well, it's the tank's job to hold aggro. You should just have aggro. But then after that, the next tank job is to take damage. And until
yeah.
active mitigation, we never really had a way to modify that other than just our gearing and trinket use and ability use. Like, and by ability use, I mean like when you hit shield wall. So, uh,
Yeah,
so now
with
where
a
do you?
90-minute cooldown.
Yeah, when it was like an hour and a half or whatever. Um, so where do you see active mitigation going? Do you see them continuing on the same path? Do you think they're going to add more abilities in the next expansion?
I don't know. I think active mitigation is here to stay, to be honest. Because personally, for me, it makes it a lot of fun to be playing the tank classes. Many of them at least, and it's like a way for you to, well, while you're doing damage, which everyone does damage, but you're trying to maximize that, of course, as well. We're also trying to maximize the survivability, and it's like you're a tank. You're supposed to survive, and just being standing there and trying to do some damage that you're not gonna keep up with the others anyway. That's just not very fun. So you need to have something to work with, and like you said, threat is, in my opinion, not a very fun mechanic. And of bosses, it was like, oh, it's always been completely like useless. Like you start with the first 20 seconds or whatever. You build threat for the rest of the fight. It's like you just do your normal rotation. You should have threat.
Gotcha. I agree. Well, thank you very much for joining us. That's all the questions we have now. I really appreciate you being on the show. And maybe you can go get some sleep now since it's probably about 5 a.m. there.
Yeah, it's been late. But thanks for having me. It's great fun.
Yeah, no problem. That's all for this episode of Aggathon's Rage Bar. If you want to follow Trekkie on Twitter, his Twitter handle is at MethodTrekkie. And you can also go to his stream, which is Twitch TV/Trekkie. And as always, feel free to send me questions for next week's episode of Agathon's Rage Bar. You can follow me on Twitter, which is at Aggathon, or you can send me a PM on TankSpot to the username Aggathon. Have a good week, guys.